Hello gents, welcome to Ensk in a gameplay review. Now, today we're going to be looking at two things. One of them is how we go about positioning in the cap circle. We'll be discussing our objective in that regard, what we do and why we do it, and also we'll be looking at some basic positional play that I really thought it was good to cover, because although it may come as second nature to me by now, it is something that I think a lot of people won't think about. Now, we're into IS-2s here now. I've recently done a review in depth of the IS-2 Berlin, so I won't be going into detail about the stats of the tanks in this video. I will put a link to that, if I remember, in the description down below, so you can check it out if you wish. Now, despite aesthetically, if you look at the leaderboard, these tanks being one and the same, they're not. JDEG's up there in the Chinese IS-2, I'm in the IS-2 Berlin, and there are some subtle differences between the tanks, like he gets heat as premium, for an example, and his frontal armor is a lot worse than mine, but he doesn't have much compensation in mobility. So I mean, this combination might even work. We might even play this combination even if JDEG wasn't grinding the tank, because I think, I mean, for me, the reason why I play Russian heavies is to feel like I did when I was playing the KV-1S. You know, I love these 122mm guns because they remind me of my World of Tanks childhood, basically. It's just, oh, they're so satisfying to play. So, let's discuss the matchup and our mentality from the offset. Now, obviously, looking at the map right now, we can see we've got a large amount of forces on the east. And balancing these two teams off against one another at the start, obviously, 75%, that's largely down to us. But we've got to look at it and think, okay, heavy to heavy, heavy to heavy, heavy to heavy, heavy to heavy. And so we don't particularly have a massive advantage other than statistically. The enemy have just as, well, the enemy team is theoretically just as capable in a heavy tank department, and even more so because I've got a KV-2 and T-150, which I mark down in my head whenever I see lower tier heavy tanks. I mark them as collateral damage, and sort of you can count two lower tier heavies as one higher tier heavy in your head if you want to balance it that way. So I was thinking they have a bit of a heavy tank advantage over us. Now combine that with the 88, the SU-100, anyone who I think might take a more defensive position in the city. At this point we know the SU-100 is coming over here, and the 88 may well play offensively as well. That is a slight bit of a concern for me. However, given that I know myself and JDEG have platooned an awful lot, I know that I can make aggressive plays here, and we're going to be able to take these guys out just through merit of, well, there's no platoons on the enemy team. There's no platoons other than us in this game, and we know that the power of focus fire in a situation like this is just going to be a fantastic weapon for us. So we end up coming up straight up the ass of that T-29, get two shots into him almost instantly, aiming for the dry wheel, and JDEG is going to reload and take him out before me. So that is one dead T-29 very, very quickly. And I'm noting to JDEG that the IS has just fired, obviously, taking out that Digamax. And it's really important in platoon play to always be feeding each other information. Obviously, mostly information that is relevant, but it's important to keep your platoon mate updated on information that they may have missed. We're always, me and JDEG, when we platoon, we're always telling each other that a certain tank is fired, that we tracked a certain tank, that a certain tank is going somewhere, and I catch the SU trying to relocate out wide, and so I tell JDEG to pre-aim in between the two houses, because it's just what we expect. And unfortunately, JDEG misses the shot with .46 accuracy, and on your 0.4 second aim time, you can't expect it to hit every time. And this is a new play from me. I tell Jadeg to take that guy while I aim for one of the other heavy tanks who I think is going to come out and try and take advantage because we're not aimed at that corner. But obviously, it should have been the other way. Now, Jadeg should have been the one looking at the corner, and I should have been the one on the SU because Jadeg fired at him after me, so I would have reloaded first. And as a result of that poor decision, the SU gets away, and I don't know what this ONE was doing. Very, very lucky that Jadeg's shell didn't go through him there. And at the moment, I've got to be wondering, where is this IS? There's a T-150, there's an IS over there, the ONE is with the SU-100. I'm concerned, and so I'm not holding this position here just for my health. I'm here, and I'm going to be reversing backwards and forwards, because it's going to enable me to spot the IS if he's trying to outflank me. And so I keep going backwards and forwards, and we do catch the IS instantly, and we pull forward to, I guess you can say we dodged the shot. Get a nice tracking shot in return, telling Jadeg to focus down the IS. As his tracks comes out, and we get a lovely fire, finishing him off for 482, I think, in the end. And we're aiming at 90mm sort of sidearm on T-150 here. But for some reason it eats it. I do believe the shell went low. Thinking about loading HE, but Jadeg communicating with me says he's got the kill, so I go back to AP. And now, in this situation, Jadeg is going to be on one side of the building. It's far more important for me to take out the SU-100 in this situation, because the ONE is not going to be able to kill me with both me and Jadeg shooting him. You can hear Jadeg's heat shells there. And if anyone could tell me how that shell possibly missed, I would be all too happy to completely ignore you and tell you that you're foolish. So, yeah, while the tank's satisfying us, what can I say? So, ignoring the ONE here, because we know that we can just hide behind him. Even if he does turn, we're going to be able to hide below his gun depression. And that is a good cleanup of the channel. We picked up 5 kills between us. Now we've got a consideration of where our next engagement should be. You see me ping the map. And I was watching the map and looking at that 88's direction of travel. And because of it, I know that that 88 is facing that VK and going that way. So I did want at that point to go up behind the 88 and take him out, because he's a dangerous tank in this kind of matchup. But I decide that we should consolidate fire from our only remaining ally, this T-25-2. So I say to Jadeg, we should get over here and make sure that this guy is not alone, because he is going to need all the support he can get, and there's no point in wasting this T-25-2 by leaving him alone. He's a tier 7 tank, one of the greatest advantages we have in this game. So chilling for the KV-2, and we pick him up. Now, let's talk about positioning. We are in 2 tier 7 heavies. We are a dominating force in this game, but we have not got a large amount of health left between us. And in these endgame situations like this, especially when you're outnumbered, you've got to think, what is best for my tank? My type of tank, what is best in this situation? Am I medium tank? And are there lots of TDs on the enemy team? If I was a medium tank right now, I could play a bit more aggressive, because I'm likely to be able to outflank these talentless TDs and take them down for not much whatsoever. But you've got to really consider, even into powerful tier 7 heavies, that we have an advantage over the enemy, because, for one thing, they're not in platoons, they're not going to be communicating, and they're most likely going to be greedy. So I'm telling Jedeg, we cannot abandon the town advantage, and that's exactly what Jedeg thinks as well, is that we're heavy tanks. We do so well at a heavy tank engagement. The enemy have no heavies left. They have no tank that can make a swift, good, effective engagement in the town. So we have a massive advantage over the enemy just by the structure of the land that is around us. It's the kind of land that's going to allow us to fall back behind cover whenever we need to and reload our high alpha damage guns, which is exactly what we want when faced with these kind of opponents. These opponents who would want to rush us to take us down with the weight of numbers. And so as much as I did want to support a T-25-2, it's simply not worth exposing ourselves, and certainly not worth YOLOing out into the field or trying to attack into the field area, because undoubtedly we would die. We've got a lot of time on the clock, 9.5 minutes. We're under no pressure whatsoever, and so we decide that we're going to take defensive positions and we're going to wait them out. We're going to try and work down a couple of tanks as they push in, get ourselves a bit of an advantage, and then we can start playing like heavy tanks again. And I'm hoping against hope that I can give this T-25 some fire support, but we can't feather a shot on the Stug. And it's at this point that people might be tempted to play more aggressively in the tier 7 heavy. And it's something that you should really be aware of, that your level of aggression, you should check it at every new engagement you're going into. We won that town fight, and we picked up 5 kills during it in about 5 minutes. That can go to your head if you have a swift, massive, really hardcore engagement like that. It can affect the way you play, and it's important to keep your head and think, okay, what do I need to do now for the best for my team? Cheerily unloads into the T-25. Jedeg, I believe, is aiming a shot for him. And, yep, smacks him straight up the ass. And now we're communicating again, because I'm aimed on this corner, and Jedeg is aimed on the other corner here. So we know, well, he will be in a minute. And at that point, when he is, we know that the Cheerily can't go anywhere without us either killing him or knowing about it, depends on the spotting delay. And I'm getting more and more uncomfortable here, because the longer I stay aiming the shot, the more likely it is that that Comet T-67 and Stug are going to be able to work their way in close to me. So I decide, not worth it, I need to make sure that I know what's coming in from the flank, and as it happens, Jedeg picks up the Cheerily anyway. But you can see why this is a fantastic position for my tank in this situation, because, as I said earlier, it allows me control, which is exactly what you want in a heavy against mediums, against tanks with rapid fire guns. You don't want them to be able to dictate the pace of the engagement. You want to be able to say, okay, I'll shoot you, now I'll fall back into cover, and you can't shoot me until I want to come out again, fully loaded, and take you down. Jedeg is getting harassed by the T-67, who's elected to fight APCR. Can't blame him. This is just exactly what we wanted out of this position. Caught the Comet with his pants down. Jedeg takes him out with a nice shot through the building. How quaint. And Jedeg informs me at this point that both of the enemies are in the cap circle. And I'm quick to notice a Stug behind me, and so I turn, I aim, and Jedeg says, I'm dead. And so instantly, as he says that, I snap the shot in an attempt to save him. As it happens, the Stug rolls low. It's got 150 alpha, I do believe. And it wouldn't have killed Jedeg anyway if he did roll for 150, I don't think. But in either case, doesn't matter, Jedeg is still alive and kicking. And I play aggressively to this corner that deters the T-67 from popping out on JDEG's flank, clearly wanted to get behind him and assassinate him. We get the side of the AT-8. Now that's 10 kills, we're both up to around 20,000 damage. And myself and JDEG are both loading HE, because we don't want RNG to just screw us over on this T-67. And so I'm going to attempt to nab him as he worms his way out here. We have a speculative shot before going towards the cap circle. And some may be intent or hopeful at chasing and killing that T-67, but if he's a good enough player to run, then he's a good enough player to think carefully about what he's going to do. A T-67 has an amazing camera engine and a quality gun that can easily trouble the front of this tank if it's firing APCR, which we know it is. So, out on the field there we have a clear and present disadvantage, but in the cap circle, we can put the pressure on him, we can take away his ability to engage us at range, we can get a bit more control over the engagement in the cap circle, which is always the objective when capping against an enemy tank. It forces their hand, but of course, being a kind of double-edged sword, it also lets the enemy know exactly where you are. And so that mainly is what dictates our positional play in the cap circle at the end here. I tell JDEG that he needs to reposition his tank in the bush that he's in a position where, because the objective when you're capping the enemy base, you want to prepare for as many options as possible. Now, this is quite a good cap circle for a heavy tank because it's alleyways, but we could be ambushed from anywhere. And so what you always want to think about is, what's the worst case scenario and how many options can I prepare for at once? So that's why we set JDEG up like this. What this does is it means that he will spot if the T-67 comes down this alleyway, he will light him up. And if the T-67 appears here, then JDEG can pull forward instantly into cover. And if the T-67 appears there, JDEG is obviously aimed on that corner. So we've covered two alleyways, two options, with one tank, which is a fantastic maneuver, if I do say so myself. We prepared if he's there. Obviously, you don't want to only be focused, only prepared for one option. You want to have as many things covered as possible. You can imagine if JDEG was sat like that and aimed here and the T-67 popped out there, but we've got two angles that we're covering right now, which is basically the best option that we have right now for outplaying this guy. Now, I'm thinking that JDEG is a one-shot for that T-67, so I'm looking to play more aggressively. I want to be more prominent in the cap circle. I want the T-67 to shoot me first. So I sit in a presentable position. If he pops up there, he's going to spot me first. If he pops up there, hopefully he'll spot me first. If he comes down there, I'm a lot easier to shoot. And that's exactly what we want, because we don't want the enemy to pick up JDEG. Obviously, I'm facing this way because I'm basically doing the same thing as JDEG is right now. And that is that I'm aimed on this corner, I'm facing this way, so that I can run if he pops up there. And it is a decent heavy tank maneuver, to be honest. You can use this tactic when you're engaging RT, for example, when you're roaming about and you don't know where an enemy RT is. If you have a decent glut of health, you're sort of borderline one-shot, then I would recommend always aiming over your arse and always aiming towards your weakest armor, because that's where you're going to need to shoot him most urgently. If he appears in front of you, then your frontal armor is most likely to absorb a lot of the damage, but if he appears behind you, then that's going to be a serious problem. So I often aim towards my weakest armor in these situations, because obviously if T67 pops up there, he may well bounce off my frontal armor. If he pops up there, he's not going to bounce, so I want to be aimed there. Now, it's just a matter of patience. This is an encounter cap circle, so it takes a lot longer to cap, but with two of us it would be about the same as capping in the normal game mode. It's patience. And T67 pops up in a position that we prepared for, and Jadek just has to pull forward, and he starts to do it, but the pot shot T67 picks him up anyway, and that was an annual shame. And I guess we could have executed it better by having Jadek angle his armor towards this way, but aim on this corner. But I did think he'd be able to spot him and get out before the T67 got a shot. As it happens, that was not the case, and now I am being hunted by this T67. Now this guy's proven himself to be good enough to make an ambush, to relocate around the entire map, and so I'm not just going to buy that he's going to appear on the corner. That obviously he's gone down this alleyway right here, that alleyway at the back. If I was him, I'd try and bait me again by going back along this way and trying to catch me by surprise. So I'm just looking about trying to consider what's the most likely option, and I end up using Mr. Jadek in his death as my ass armor. So right now I've got a fantastic situation. I have basically impenetrable armor on my ass that I can reverse side swipe off using my 90mm of side armor. And my frontal armor obviously is a standard 100mm on the frontal hull. So reverse side sniping the APCR shells, and the T67 makes a fatal mistake. And that was a lovely game. Picked up 11 kills between the two of us. That's one away from a crucial. Both of us netting ace tanker medals in this game and winning the game by the average damage of 100mm gun, 320 hit points. So gentlemen, hopefully this game has given you a bit of perspective. I'll just do a bit of a summary of what we talked about here. And that is mainly that throughout a game, despite whether you are a top tier heavy or not, there are some situations where passive and defensive play is absolutely the right play for the situation, which is exactly the case that we found halfway through this game, where we lured the enemy into a situation that they felt really uncomfortable with us, as well as knowing that the enemy were unskilled and likely to push in one by one. Even if they had all attacked at once, we put ourselves in the best possible position to deal with it, with constant supporting fire to one another, holding a really strong position for that assault of the enemy team. And obviously at the end, just trying to prepare for as many options as possible. And you've got to think, when going into a cap circle, be thinking, okay, what can happen here? And use that time that you got on the clock. Don't just sit idly aimed on the corner. Use the time, be thinking, okay, what am I going to do if he appears there? What am I going to do if he appears there? What's my call if he appears there? Do I traverse? Do I run? Do I do whatever? You've got to consider that before he suddenly pops up and you have no idea what to do, you panic and you die. Gentlemen, hopefully it has been helpful, and until next time, I will bid you an extremely fond farewell. Cookie! No!
No!
Oh, is it gonna be? Oh, hello! 3, 2, 1. Hit off! Oh, what the hell?